Donna Bush with your CIG-TV News Brief and weather forecast. During the Wednesday general elections, a group of elections observers watched virtually from overseas while 9 observers were appointed locally. Today we hear from Mr. Hadley Roberts, the head observer, about the process.
My role as the head of mission for the domestic observation team was, first of all, to make sure that the rest of the team, the other 8 observers, were appropriately trained and informed of what the purpose of our mission was and how to deal with any issues that arise, how to cope when presented with lots of different what-if scenarios. So my role also was to act as a spokesperson. That's why I'm speaking to you, Donna. I had a number of chats with Reshma from the Compass, and I'm trying to communicate with as many media outlets as possible so that they're aware of our presence and what we're doing. It's also my job, where possible, to reach out and contact any candidates, any party officials, anybody who has a certain vantage point where they can provide us with information and share with us their experiences of the entire election campaign and election process. The goal of our observation mission, simply enough, was to observe. What I mean by that, of course, is that we were being very attentive, we were very present on the ground. I myself was in the command centre for much of the time, talking to and asking many questions of the elections office. What our goal is, essentially, is to take in all the information we can from political competitors, as well as officials and even electors too. Take in all their information, all their experiences, listen to their views, combine those with our own observations of what we see, and then what we'll be doing in the coming weeks is getting together, compiling all our data, working out a report, and then producing a few recommendations on how to make what it appears to be a very good elections process just that little bit better. You don't even need to be particularly observant to note that there were a number of complaints made of varying types and varying levels of merit, shall we say. It's not our job to make decisions or make judgments like that. We're simply here to note, observe, consider. I said this a number of times in previous statements, that we're just there as an extra level of scrutiny, hopefully to give people confidence in the process. I made it very clear to anybody we came across that we're not there like some sort of secret police or any kind of, nobody was under investigation when they had an observer present. It was just data collection, if you like, taking samples of what was going on and using that as a reflection for the future. Everybody in the election process has a very specific and important job to do. The head team in the command centre of the elections office is very busy checking application of the law. They are listening to radio commands coming in and out, communications from the team on the ground. It's a very big job to coordinate an election, particularly one that goes across the entire island. So to achieve something like that, everybody's very busy. And likewise, when people are, let's take an agent in a polling station. They are there to collect the votes. They are there to check that people have been registered correctly. There's a lot of pressure on everybody in the entire process, not to mention all the candidates and political agents who have invested a lot of time and effort into the process. So having observers who have a separate set of responsibilities gives us the freedom, if you like, to move around because we have no stake in the outcome. We're there just to monitor and make sure things are being carried out as they should be, and to identify weaknesses in the system, but also strengths. At this stage, I'll be meeting with my observer team. I would like to thank them for all their hard work. They were out there before the ballot boxes were opened in the morning, and then they were running around the various polling stations in different parts of the island throughout the day, and I think we clocked out at about 10 past 11 last night. Of course, not quite as long as many of the logistics staff who were out there taking the boxes around from 5 a.m. and things, but they put in a lot of hard work. And the very final thing I'd like to say is that if anybody has anything they would like to share with the observation team, if they have any insights as to how we could make recommendations to make their lives better or easier for the next election, I'd very much like to hear from them.
And when applications were being accepted months back, a total of 47 expressions of interest were received following a call for submissions by His Excellency. Public servants were excluded from consideration to protect the political neutrality of the public service. Turning now to our forecast, the high temperature reached 88 degrees, the low 74. The forecast calls for mainly fair skies with a 20% chance of afternoon showers. Winds are easterly 10 to 15 knots during the day and 5 to 10 knots by tonight. Seas are slight to moderate with wave heights of 2 to 4 feet. The synopsis shows slight to moderate winds and seas, which are expected across the Cayman Islands area over the next 24 hours as a high pressure system over the western Atlantic Ocean lingers over the next few days. Radar images show isolated showers around the Cayman Islands area. Remember, you can find the latest on local weather conditions online at weather.gov.ky, or you can simply download their app on your mobile device. It's CINWS. And that's it for today's news brief here on CIG Television. I'm Donna Bush, inviting you to join us again tomorrow. Until then, have a wonderful night.
Boating, fishing, and water sports in the Cayman Islands are great, but keep a cool head. Here are 7 tips for fun and safe sea outings. Number 1. Use a checklist to plan your outing. Check the weather forecast, make a float plan, and share it with someone who is remaining on land, stating where you're going, with whom, and when you're expected to return. Visit your nearest marine supply store to get your safety gear. This includes signaling mirrors, whistles, and a flare kit. It's also very important to have onboard flotation devices and life vests for each person. There are different types of vests. Some are for water sport activities such as snorkeling, and others are for going on offshore boating or on fishing trips. Number 2. These items can be lifesavers in case of an accident or bad weather. Number 3. Use a motor kill switch, especially if you're boating alone. In case of a leak or breakdown, always stay with the boat until help arrives. If you capsize, an emergency beacon or locator device can send a distress signal to inform the authorities of your location. Larger flares will indicate distress to a boat, airplane, or search and rescue officials. Number 4. In addition to sunscreen, food, and beverages, it would be smart to have a cell phone. Make sure your marine radio works. Cayman boaters use Channel 16 to communicate. Number 5. Also, don't forget your anchor and sufficient rope. Number 6. Boat operators should be familiar with the local waters and reefs, as well as the capabilities and functions of the vessels they are using. Always obey the rules of the sea and the marine environment, and have courtesy for others. Number 7. Alcohol and salt water do not mix, especially if you're the captain. Some useful contact numbers are 911. The RCIPS Marine Base is 649-7710, and the Port Authority is 949-2055. Smooth sailing, all!
Did you know that planning permission is required for a shed? Did you know you should check with the department as a planning and permit application may be required?